Once again, I want to welcome you to Boundary Systems Wednesday webinar. Sorry. My name is Michael Wimberly, and I'll be presenting tracking usage of license statistics using XFormation. So the objectives of this, of course, is to review the general information of the XFormation software. And of course, just the overall agenda is to go in and give an introduction of myself, give an overview of the topic, do a demonstration, and then have a Q&A following. In your webinar dialogue, there's an area in there for questions where you can go through and display your questions or ask your questions that you may have during this session. All right, so just a little bit about myself. Once again, my name is Michael Wimberly. I am a senior technical specialist here at Boundary Systems. I have over 20 years of experience working on PTC products. I am also a certified trainer in Creo and Windchill classes, as well as a certified Windchill implementation specialist. Boundary Systems as a whole, we are a PTC partner plus 20 plus years of experience in the channel, technical specialists with anywhere from 10 to 20, some of us even 25 years of experience with PTC products. Also, some of our major accreditations are we are, of course, a PTC reseller, we're preferred service provider, a certified training partner, authorized training centers that we have across the U.S. as well as in Canada. Also PTC maintenance partner, as well as a Windchill certified implementer. And we are currently, as far as support-wise, Windchill-wise, we are actually supporting over 100 companies on their Windchill systems, whether it's remote admin or just direct support of their system or on our cloud system. Now, Boundary Systems. Our mission as Boundary Systems comprises of 4 main bullet items. First is to have the most technical expertise in on PTC products. So with that, that's why we have multiple technical specialists who specialize in different areas of the software. With that, it helps us to understand the needs of our customers as well. So when they're asking us questions on what other pieces of software they should have for their different industries that they're in, then we can go in and actually properly recommend information or additional software for them to go in and use. With that, we guarantee the success of every solution that we go through and provide, because once again, we understand what the customer's needs are, and we recommend the appropriate software for that, and we work with the customer to make sure that software is implemented appropriately. And then, of course, the overall goal for us and the customer that we're working as well is to go on a decrease cost, decrease time to market, as well as increase the quality of their products. So with all of this together, we want to make sure that the solution that we have, whether it's just directly Creo, whether it's Creo and Windchill, whatever it may be, that what we've recommended to implement it for the customer is actually what the customer needs, and it actually improves their time to market and, of course, increasing their productivity overall. What you're seeing here are multiple softwares that we actually use. Of course, we have the entire suite of PTC softwares. We also have Solid Thinking. We have Modex 3D. XFormation is actually what we're going to go through and show today. E-Trade, we work with ITI, ZWCAD, which is another 2D software, Keyshot, Noesis, as well as Mentor Graphics. So overall, if you have any questions or anything relating to technical questions, please feel free to contact me. Once again, Michael Wimberly at 513-415-0747, or you can reach me by email at mwimberly@boundarysys.com. If you have any sales-related questions, you can, of course, call the number directly, 440-274-0291, or you can also email sales@boundarysys.com. All right. So let's now get into the general discussion. So license management. License management is always a discussion that is had at companies, no matter what. Every piece of software that you have in a company is always managed by a license. So the questions always come up as to how many licenses do we have? How many licenses do we actually use? How many will we need in the future as we go through and grow? when do these licenses expire? Which licenses are on what server, and which server is getting the most activity? So we have all these different things. So when we have multiple servers, we have multiple licenses, multiple pieces of software. Those questions always come up as to, are we basically using our licenses to the fullest capability that they have? Do we have the right number of licenses? Are we running out of licenses? Do we have too many licenses? So on and so forth. So once again, this is a general conversation every year when budgets are being discussed and when license renewals are coming due. So that's always a discussion is had. Now, this discussion is even more important now since the majority of software companies are doing subscription-based licenses instead of being able to buy a perpetual license. Now, when your license expires, your software stops working and you're not profitable until it is fixed. So once again, as we can see across the board, Creo is an example. If you look at Microsoft products, you look at Adobe products, all those things are subscription based, which means you basically have it for a period of time. And then when that period of time is up, it stops working. So we need to be able to monitor that and even get alerts to let us know when things are going to expire instead of guessing or finding out the hard way when the software doesn't work anymore. So let's take the guesswork out of our license usage. We can go through and use this software called XFormation. There is a license statistics piece of software that they offer, which is a feature-rich license management software that delivers unprecedented efficiency in monitoring and reporting your company license usage. So we can go through and use it locally for your Creo licenses. It can tap into additional license servers or license server software that you have as well to be able to go through and monitor those. And this is real-time monitoring of your software. So it's not a static monitoring. Now you do have the ability to go in and import license information, and that is a static license report at that point in time. But a lot of the license servers you can actually go through and connect directly with and get real-time license usage to go through and see how things are actually done. So here's one of the dashboards that you'll actually have when you're actually going to the software. We'll get into this in more detail, but you have the actual license servers, and then we're looking at the top corner. You have license servers that you can see. You can see the current utilization of the different pieces of software that it's monitoring. You can go through and see expiration dates on different softwares. It'll let you know what softwares are expiring, of course, within the next 12 months. It'll go through and highlight in red the things that are expiring basically within the next couple of days. As you move out about a week, the colors change, and then of course when you're kind of more in the safety zone, it'll basically be green. And we'll see that once again in more detail when we go into the actual demonstration. But you of course have different reports. It's very important to understand once again the overall usage of your software. So you have current user report to see actually what current users are actually using the software, the current utilization of the software, once again percentage wise as far as how the percentage of licenses that are being used of a particular software expiring. You also real-time user count. So at that point in time on my server, I can find out how many people are actually logged into the system. So I can see what people are logged in, as well as what licenses they're actually going in and using. And you can also go through and monitor borrowing license. So we do have the ability to go through and see licenses that are being borrowed currently throughout our system. And then once again, as I mentioned, feature usage, we can go through and see the amount of usage that are individual piece of software is actually being used. It gives you how often it's being used, how long it's been used or in use, things like that. And once again, we'll see that in more detail coming up. And then in addition to that, as I mentioned, we have additional software server information that it can actually go through and use as well. Sorry. As you can see at the very top, it talks about the the license management, the LM tools, the Altair license, the beta, so on and so forth, the Salt license server. So if you do use some other type of software, your SolidWorks or your CATIA, it can still monitor those servers as well. Here we have our FlexLM, which is once again what we use for our Creo software, and so on and so forth for multiple softwares that we can go through and use. And over here in this chart, you can see real-time information. You can also go through and monitor as far as versions of the software, once again, it's being used. So if we have Creo 2, Creo 3, Creo 4, Creo 5 installed, it can actually go through and show you which versions of the softwares are actually being used. So it actually shows you that information as well. All right, so at this point in time, we're going to go ahead and jump right into a demonstration of the software. So what we have here is just our the default information for a server, and we're actually going to go in and actually register my server on my computer. So right now it's looking at a remote server that has multiple license servers in there. I'm going to go to the one directly from my computer, and what you'll notice is on this one I actually have the administration tab, which will allow me to go through and actually add the information from my computer. So I'm going to go through and now register my server. So I'm going to go ahead and add that information. Now I'm going to simply call this local server. And then once again, we're going to go through and use FlexNet. And now for this path has to point to the LM utility executable in the licensing software. So when I come into here and I go into my PTC, where to go? Oh, sorry, program files. Program files, PTC, my Flex server. Underneath the Flex server, go to X there, and then there is the LM utility executable. So I want to copy this path into here. So the utility, the executable is the same. I'm just now pointing to the one, once again, on my system, and then the host, of course, is my computer. And then the port, of course, is our regular port that we use, the 7788. Now, down here at the bottom is where we can go through and specify how often it refreshes this display. Right now, it's saying 5. You have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We can go through. I'm going to go ahead and set it to 1. Excuse me. And then I'm going to go ahead and verify. The verification is simply verifying that it can go through and execute this command as well as connect to my actual server. So once it goes in and verifies, we can see that it's actually now reading my licensing information. So it shows all the current licenses on my server. So I'll close that out and I'll go ahead and save it. Now, it does tell me, because I am doing a 1 minute interval, and basically it's telling me it should only be used for testing purposes. Basically, do I want to continue? Yes. Because once again, you don't want this thing to refresh every minute when you're going in and actually monitoring on your regular server information. So as I go through and register a server, I can also go through and set up users. So if I want to go through and specify additional people to be able to access this information, I can do that as well. So I can come over here and add users as well. I can also go through and attach them based on LDAP information. And that's actually over here where I can connect to a current LDAP that I may have in my system. I can also go through and set up email notifications. So I can go through and set up the email server itself. So I can actually go through and send emails out of this software to us directly. That way we don't have to continue to have this up. It is running continuously in the background. So when it does run into issues, it can go through and send us a report on that particular item. License servers groups, we have host groups, we have user groups, SQL console. So all those different things we can go through and set up. And of course our error log that we can go through and look at as well. So once again, if I look under my license servers, what I'm going to simply see is my individual license server that is here. And then I can go to the dashboard for that particular license server, and it will go in and now give me the report. So there's my current license server. Here's all the current files that are in my current license. And currently you can see that I have nothing in use because I currently don't have Creo up on my system. And it also goes in and shows me what features are expiring within the next 12 months. So basically everything is expiring basically at the beginning of March of next year. So right now everything is green because it's in the safe zone. We're basically almost about a year out from us going in and actually having to replace those. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start my Creo session so that we can actually go through and see it work. Now as we go through and set up Creo, a lot of us have different start commands that we go through and use when we're going in and executing Creo. So instead of pulling all the licenses, especially if we're pulling off of a joint server, we want to make sure we only pull the license information that we need. So I have 3 of them set up here, which is my basic Creo, which is just basically the base Creo with all the basic extensions that come with it. I have some advanced design options that I've gone through and added. And then I have everything. I wanted to go through and pull all of them. So I'm going to go ahead and select on the advanced design options and let it go ahead and start from there. Give it a moment to go ahead and start up. Now, as it's starting up, it will take a few seconds for the actual report to actually update on our screen. So we do have the refresh, but it takes a minute for it to go through and connect to everything and update the actual data. So as it's going in and doing that, I'll once again just kind of show you some additional information. There's license servers. So once again, it will go through and show any additional license servers that I have. So right now, based on my current license server, which is the only one that I have, it's going in and showing me the information on that specific license server. I'll show you more when we go into the actual, my other display area or my other settings. I'll show you that as well. Features now breaks it down into individual features in my license file as far as what's being actually used. So we can see down here, there's all the different options that are inside of my license file. So it's telling me whether or not those things are being used. So if I come over here and I just pick one of them, once again, not knowing just by the number what they are, and I'll show you that in just a moment, how those correlate to each other, or where we can find the information on that. Then we have, of course, our reports, which will go through and show us the licenses that are being used as well. And then, of course, the administration tab as well. So there's current users, there's usage per user. So once again, based on the individuals, I can go through and show the information there as well. Usage history, which will go through and show me the history of these files. Once again, because I've just registered mine, there's really nothing to go in and show because it's really just now being used. But there's quite a bit, and I'll once again show you more detailed information in the other statistics that I have actually pulled up. So now that I've gone through and shown some of the information, we can now see that it goes in and now shows the utilization of my software. So I have a total of 1 license, and currently 1 license is being used. So as I scroll down, you can see all the licenses that are being used and the ones that are currently not being used. So as I continue to scroll, we can see those items there. We can go through and sort by the information as well. Now, as I stated before, what we're looking at here are simply the names of these files. So we don't necessarily know just by looking at those, the numbers of the file. By looking at those numbers, we don't know exactly what those numbers represent, but they represent this information here for the feature name in our actual license file. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this a little bit. And then come over here. So when I go through and I look, and I'm looking for feature 329, when I look at feature 329 here, that's telling me that I'm using the options modeler. So that's one of the items that I've gone in and used. I can come down here even further, 356. 356 is GD&T. So because I'm pulling my design items, it's going in and using those. 354 is the advisor, so I have all the GD&T information. The 331, I can come over here. That's my design exploration. So all these different things you can see. So these numbers correspond with the number, the feature number inside of my license file. So I can go through and actually compare the two to see what licenses are being used most frequently in my actual listing. So that's what those numbers correlate to, are the actual numbers inside of my license file inside of Creo, or for Creo, I should say. All right, so let's go ahead to my other setup, which has, once again, a little bit more information inside of there. So I'm going to go right to the dashboard. And then in the dashboard, because this setting has multiple servers, all those servers are listed here. So you can see there's a serve 1 and serve 2. There's a custom server. There's a Felix server, and then there's some denials and a server 3. So what you're also looking at over here is how the information is being gathered. So you can see that these are being gathered real time. This is actually imported. So we have 2 of them that we simply imported the data in to the system. So it's not actually reading the information real time. It's based on when we imported that actual data. So, but these other ones are actually reporting real time the information. So if I want to see the information on a particular server, I can go in and select that particular server. It'll go through and now show me the information there. So once again, I can look at the licensing information. So there's current usage. I can see what's being used, what's not being used. I can also see the expiration dates on things. So as we can see, some things have already expired. So we have quite a few that have expired, but we have a few of them that are also permanent licenses. So they don't expire. And once again, if these were old Creo licenses, although they expired, because they may be perpetual licenses, they're actually still functional. And we can also see basically when the last time that information was updated, because it's expired, is based on that expiration date. Now, we can also go through and look at other servers as well. So if we look at this custom server, it'll go through and show its information as well. And I can go through and see, and you can see this is some of the Creo information. So there it is, MathCAD, and we can see currently that this has a total of 4 licenses of that. There's currently 3 of them being used. So I can go through and see that. And then I can come down here and see the additional information. So we can see, for the most part, most of our software is being used currently about half of the time. So we can also go in and look at the usage history to go in and see the information on that as well. So once again, the minimum amount of use for a particular item, you can see the status of those based on the dates. It's actually going in and showing this information by day. So it's going to show, we're basically minimum usage, 50%, average usage. We can look there. This one is always used fully. And we have some that are under 50%, some that are over 50%, some are right at 50%. So we can go through and kind of gauge, okay, are we okay with that licenses? Do we have too many licenses? So we can go through and evaluate that information. And as you can see, the way they have it color coded is when you're at 100%, it shows you that you're maxing out the number of licenses that are being used. When you're at 75%, it kind of gives you a warning there. But everything that's under 75% still kind of gives you a green light that says your usage is still okay. You're not close to maxing out anything. So it's good information that you can go through and use, once again, to monitor your actual information. The other thing that you can also look at is the uptime. Basically, how often are the licenses being used? So we can see that information as well. So right now it's going in and using it just from the first of the month. Let's go in and look at the first of the year and basically see the information there as well. So we can see that for the license server itself, it has been up constantly, so it's okay. All right, so now let's go back to the dashboard. Once again, just look at more of the information inside the dashboard. And then inside of here, once again, as I said, we can go through and look specifically at features. So this is actually showing current usage on multiple hosts. So basically you have multiple features that are basically being used on multiple computers. So we can see that they're actually used, the same license is being used on different computers. As I said down here, usage average over the last 24 hours, we can look at the information down here and see what servers being accessed, the user that's actually accessing that information, and from where. So we have all the information here, and you can see how much time it's been used. So we can see that some of this software must be software that's kind of monitoring information, because we have several pieces of software that have been running for over 8 years now. It's a long time. And then, of course, you have things that are basically used for that day, so on and so forth, or a little bit over a day. So you can see the information, once again, inside of there. We can go to reports and also see the different reports. So we can say users not using licenses. So there are 94% of the users are currently not using the licenses, which makes, of course, that 6% of the users using the licenses. Down here is basically user usage. So this user, once again, is currently using 297 modules or features. And then you can see, once again, as we go through, you can see the different users and what information they're actually going in and using currently. So you have usage per user. So if we do want to go through and look at the different users, we can go through and filter that information as well. There's a date, there's the actual user and where they're pulling it from. I'm sorry, their computer, where they're pulling it from, and the features that they're using. And then once again, their max usage of that, so on and so forth. So we can continue to go through and look at that. And of course, I'm not showing everything. You can go through and specify how many items you want to show on the table at one time. This does refresh pretty quickly. So I just changed it from 20 to 100, and you can see it's refreshing pretty quickly to allow us to go through and see the information. And always remember, each one of these columns is sortable. So right now it's sorting by the date. I can also go through and sort by the username. So to go through and show me the usernames and once again what information they're going in and pulling. So there's the 10 user, 11 user, 12 user, so on and so forth. So we can actually see what information they're pulling from as well. And once again, how long they've been using. So, and then usage history comparison. So basically just kind of over a period of time, how long have things been used. Current utilization is always important as well, to go through and verify what's currently being used and the amount of usage. This is once again where it's important to find out, license wise, are we okay? Are we too much? Is 50%, too low of a number? Do we need to go in and reduce that number of licenses? So currently this feature here has 172 total licenses, but we're using 87 of them. And then once again, we can always go back into the history of that particular feature and find out the history usage of that. And have we always maxed out at about 50%? So do we need to go through and reduce the number? So instead of being 87 licenses, maybe we can reduce that to 100 licenses. So we can go through and gauge that information as well. Real-time user count. Once again, as far as how many users are totally using the system right now over a period of time. So, and then you have an important area, of course, is expiring features. So what information is expiring. Now it is going in and showing for all the different servers. So if we do want to go through and look at a specific server, we can go through and now filter that down and just look at server 1, and it'll show me the licenses that are currently in the process of expiring. So we have one that's expiring at the end of this week. Actually, 2 of them that are expiring at the end of this week, and a couple of them over the weekend, and then we can move on a little bit to next week towards the end of the month. So this is basically within 30 days, and then anything outside of 30 days, it gives us a green light because we're kind of okay with that for right now. But once again, we can continue to go through and monitor individual servers, because once again, you may have different people that are in charge of the different servers, so you want to go through and give them the appropriate information as far as what needs to be updated and when and by when. So borrowed licenses, we don't have anything borrowed. Current usage by time range, and then current usage are multiple hosts. So once again, all that different information can be shown. So it's a lot of good information that we can show as far as how our licenses are being used in our system. If I do go back to mine once again, you can see that it's still at 100%. So let's go ahead and change this. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Then I'm going to go ahead and open it back up. So I will go ahead and restart Creo, but this time I'm going to start it. I'm going to go in and just tell it to use all the options. So once again, give it a second to go through and start everything up. And then once again, we'll have to give this a few seconds to go through and update as well. And we'll see that update and have more, features actually being used. So once again, it's very simple to go through and add your different servers to there. So if you are monitoring multiple servers, you're monitoring different licensing softwares, those things can always be added here. or once again, if I go back here into the administration tab itself, I can go through and continue to add the server, the licensing software inside of here and begin to monitor that software as well. Once again, it's very important in a lot of companies to make sure that the licenses that we have are up to date. They're being, we're not wasting money on software. We're basically using the things that we say we need to use, and we can go through and make sure that some of the modules, if we need more, we get more. If we need less, we need less. So once again, for budgetary reasons, for productivity reasons, so people aren't waiting for a license to drop off so they can grab it, we can go through and make sure that we have the appropriate number of licenses that we need per user. So it's always important to go through and verify that information. And what we're looking at here is, once again, if you look at everything here, it goes in and shows all the items that are currently being used. Once again, that's a list of 50. I'll go ahead and let's go to 500. That way we can see all 116 at one time. And now as I scroll down, you can see everything that's being used. We will come up on a couple of them that aren't used currently, and those things aren't used until you actually start that piece of software. So like some of the mechanism stuff or some of the manufacturing items, until we actually start to use that piece of the software, it won't go through and register as that being retrieved. So, but once again, we can go through and verify that. Now with that, I want to confirm one other thing as well. I think everything that I have is currently at the latest version of the software, or I should say Creo 5. So that's why my version is set to 36, because that is the actual latest version. But you can also see additional versions as well as far as the different pieces of software. So there's 9.1, there's 12, so on and so forth. So we can always see the versions of those particular softwares that we're actually using currently. So, and once again, if we're not 100% sure what those numbers represent, all we do is pull up our license file, and we can go through and compare those numbers in our license file as well to go in and see what that piece of software is. So if we come back through here real quickly, let's look at, well, that's Interlink, old Interlink, so we know what that is. But let's see what this 280 is. So if I come down here and I look at, oh, it doesn't show 280. What is that? Oh, no. Yeah. Very interesting. There it is. 280. Creo Elements. So there's an additional option here for Creo Elements View that we can go through and use as well. So that's what it's calling out, is that version of that. So we can see for that particular option that it's using. All right. So once again, the overall core purpose of this, of course, is to go through and monitor our licensing. And we want to make sure that everything is up to date. All of our options are appropriate. And then once again, we can have one individual go through and monitor that. We can go through and add additional people that we want to go through and monitor this as well. Or we can go through and set up, we have users groups. So as we go through and add users, we can also go through and add users groups. And as we go through and add those groups, we can set them up to monitor certain servers. So as we go through and set them up, we can also go in and give them the server that we want them to go through and access. So we can go through and set that information up as well. So that way, not everybody has to see everything. They can actually go through and see the information that they need to go through and monitor. So now when I go in here, I can go through and specify whatever the group was, which I think is, yep. And then I can go through and specify, if I have multiple servers, what server I want that group to be able to go through and access. So once again, because it's just my server on my personal computer, then it's just that particular server. I don't have admin permission here, so I can't go through and add users nor add groups, but this will be one of the areas where we will go through and set those people up that way. All right. So at this point, I will open it up to any questions. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat area in your webinar session. Looks like there's no questions currently, but once again, if you do have any questions as you continue forward, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, Michael Wimberly, 513-415-0747 or mwimberly@boundarysys.com. You can also reach sales at 440-274-0291 or sales@boundarysys.com. You can also reach out to us for technical questions using support.boundarysys.com or email us at support@boundarysys.com. There is a question. So the question is, what is the cost and can it be added to the current system? I'm assuming that's what the question is. I am not sure of the cost. We will have to go through and send you that. That's where sales comes in. I will pass that question on to them, and then they'll be in touch with you with the answers to that question. Any additional questions from anyone? All right. Thank you for your time, and also visit our website for any upcoming webinars that we will be having. I did not pull up our website, but feel free to look at our website, boundarysys.com, to go in and see any upcoming webinars that we have, any workshops that we have coming up, any training that we have coming up, or if you have training needs, reach out to us. We'll be happy to accommodate those training needs as well. And just general information on us as well. If you have any additional questions, tech support, all of that, feel free to reach out to us and we will be more than happy to go in and assist you. At this point, once again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you on our next webinar. Thank you.